The 6 fundamental forms of leadership. How is leadership accomplished? The truth is that there is no simple, uniform answer. There are many answers and many styles. Motivation can be achieved by many different means. Some leaders lead by example, while others lead with honor or compassion. Yet these are not the only ways to lead. Fear, anger, and the desire for material wealth can also be used to motivate. Contemporary publications on leadership would argue this point. A great effort has been made over recent decades to constrain the definition of what it means to be a leader. To attain a more comprehensive understanding of leadership, one must reject these revised definitions. Most modern leadership books on the whole have a candy-coated agenda intended to market books instead of imbue a complete understanding. They provide insufficient detail to grasp the true complexity of what it means to be a leader, most notably because of their insistence that there are wrong and right forms of leadership. Let this be put to rest now. There is no one best form of leadership. Certainly aspects of leadership can be applied in too great a degree, and there are the wrong times for a certain type of leadership. Inevitably, however, all forms of leadership have a time and a place. Therefore, the only wrong form of leadership is no leadership at all. So what are the different styles of leadership? From a behavioral standpoint, there are a nearly infinite array of styles. If an individual starts with it in mind to imitate the behaviors of other leaders, then they are taking the long path to a complete understanding. Rather than starting with imitation, let's start with foundation. Remember, a leader induces a reaction to drive others to take action on his behalf. So then the questions all become about motivation. How does one generate a reaction? Well, it depends on what type of motivation is being harnessed. If you get granular enough, there are just as many human motivations as there are forms of leadership. But if an individual wants to look for the most powerful motivations, they need only look at crime. Criminality provides the clearest evidence of what motivates human beings to take action because the motivations tend to be very strong and extremely transparent. So what motivates someone to commit a crime? Greed, anger, love, fear, lust, faith, logic, justice, revenge. There are literally thousands of little words that could describe a person's motivation to commit a crime, yet fundamentally all motivations boil down to just 6 primary human motivations. So what are they? The primal influence. This includes greed, fear, and desire. These motivations emerge from the personal desires to evade what is painful and obtain what is pleasant. This is the basis form of influence and derives its effect through a sense of self-interest. The empathic influence. This includes love, compassion, and affection. These motivations stem from emotional bonds that compel individuals to act on behalf of those they care for. This form of influence derives its effect from emotional attachment. The ideological influence. This includes faith, ideology, and principle. These motivations stem from a prescribed higher architecture of reasoning, providing identity within a strong context to drive action. The effect that drives this form of influence is a drive for a higher meaning, and through that, a greater sense of identity. The exigent influence. This includes feelings of obligation, expectation, and urgency. These motivations seek to maintain the system, resolve disparities in justice, and take action to ensure that the system does not collapse. Essentially, this influence is all about necessity, the feeling that something has to happen, whether true or not. This is all about perceiving that there isn't a choice. The incendiary influence. This includes feelings of malice, anger, aggression, and pride. These motivations harness deep-seated unrest from perceived oppression, driving action to force a change. This form of influence garners its effect from harnessing frustration to drive action. And lastly, the astute influence. The astute influence is not like the other forms of influence, as it does not derive its effect from an emotional impulse. Instead, the astute influence is all about control, self-restraint, and calculation. These motivations grow out of a desire to improve effectiveness, undergoing practical analysis to constrain the more emotional influences to generate a course of action that produces the optimal effect. Together, these 5 emotional motivations and 1 higher architecture of reasoning provide the avenue for the 6 fundamental forms of leadership. Those that can harness these energies effectively and commit them to purpose will succeed as leaders. I'm Thomas Campbell, and this has been a short excerpt from the 6 fundamental forms of leadership. If you enjoyed it, please remember to click the like button. That goes a long way to help support and promote the channel. Also, if you liked learning about leadership and want to stay updated as I continue to release advanced content, don't forget to click that subscribe button. Lastly, If you want to find the complete work, head over to kingscrownsandempires.com or search for the 6 fundamental forms of leadership on Amazon to find both digital and hardback copies. Now I want to turn it over to you. Which influence do you feel affecting your life? Which influences should we be trying to resist? Share your thoughts and leave a comment letting me know.